Modern life is documented in detail. Cameras record movement, records log activity. Systems exist to explain what happens. When someone goes missing, those systems usually leave a trail, but some cases pass through them without resolving. This video looks at 5 modern mysteries where evidence exists, investigations were conducted, and timelines were established, yet the outcome remains unknown. Not because nothing was recorded, but because what was recorded never produced an answer. First mystery is of Cicada 3301. In January 2012, an image appeared on an online message board. It contained a short message claiming to seek intelligent individuals. The image itself was the first test. Hidden inside it was encrypted data. Those who extracted it found a second message directing them to another puzzle. That puzzle led to another location online. Each step required technical skill: cryptography, steganography, programming. The name attached to the puzzles was Cicada 3301. Participation was not open-ended. Each puzzle eliminated most people who attempted it. Only a small number progressed. As the puzzles advanced, the methods became more complex. They referenced obscure texts. They used layered encryption. They required precise execution. At later stages, the puzzles moved outside the internet. Coordinates were revealed. Physical posters appeared in multiple cities across different countries. Each poster contained the same symbol, a QR code, and instructions. Those who followed the instructions were led back online. Participants reported being directed to private message boards. Access was restricted. Communication was encrypted. At a certain point, the process stopped for most participants. Some individuals reported reaching a final stage. They were told they had been selected. They were instructed not to speak publicly about what followed. They did not. In 2013, a second round of puzzles appeared. The structure was similar. The difficulty was higher. Again, a small number of people progressed. Again, the trail ended without explanation. In 2014, a third major puzzle was released. After that, the pattern changed. Messages signed with Cicada 3301's cryptographic key appeared online. They denied involvement with unrelated activities and warned against imposters. The signatures were verified. The messages were authentic. What Cicada 3301 was recruiting for was never stated. Various theories emerged. Some suggested intelligence agencies. Others suggested private research groups. Some believed it was an experiment in decentralized organization. None were proven. Investigators attempted to trace the origin of the puzzles. Server records were inconclusive. Language patterns conflicted. Time zones did not align. Every technical trail appeared designed to end. What remained was consistency. The puzzles followed a clear methodology. The filtering was intentional. The communication was controlled. This was not a public challenge designed for attention. It required planning, resources, and coordination. Yet it produced no visible result. No organization announced itself. No public project followed. No outcome was documented. After 2014, the puzzles stopped appearing regularly. Occasional signed messages surfaced later, but the process did not resume. Those who claim to have been selected remained silent. Cicada 3301 did not collapse or expose itself. It simply stopped. The puzzles exist. The solutions exist. The timeline exists. What never emerged was purpose, and without that, the activity remains unexplained. The next unsolved mystery on the list is of Brian Shaffer. On the night of March 31, 2006, Brian Shaffer went out with friends in Columbus, Ohio. He was 27 years old. He was a medical student nearing graduation. The plan for the night was ordinary. The group visited several bars near Ohio State University. Their final stop was the Ugly Tuna Saloona, a bar located on the second floor of a commercial building. Shortly before 2 a.m., security cameras recorded Brian standing outside the bar talking with 2 women. He appeared relaxed. There was no visible conflict. This is the last confirmed image of him. Brian entered the bar. He was never recorded leaving. The Ugly Tuna Saloona had one main public entrance. Anyone entering or exiting passed directly in front of the cameras. Throughout the rest of the night, the cameras continued recording. Other patrons are seen leaving. Brian is not. When the bar closed, Brian's friends waited for him. They searched nearby streets. They called his phone. There was no response. The following day, Brian missed scheduled commitments. He did not contact family. He did not contact friends. He was reported missing. Police reviewed the surveillance footage repeatedly. They confirmed Brian's entry into the bar. They confirmed that he was not captured exiting through the main door. The building contained service corridors, construction zones, and restricted areas. Investigators examined these areas. No evidence confirmed that Brian passed through them. Searches were conducted in nearby construction sites, dumpsters, and surrounding neighborhoods. No personal items were recovered. Brian's phone was never used again. His bank accounts showed no activity. His credit cards were not used. Investigators interviewed bar staff, patrons, and friends. No one reported seeing Brian after the recorded footage. Over time, multiple theories were considered. One suggested that Brian left unnoticed through an unmonitored exit. Another suggested an accidental death nearby. Another suggested foul play. None were supported by physical evidence. The case gained national attention. The FBI later added Brian Shaffer to its missing persons list. Tips came in from across the country. Some claimed sightings. Some suggested voluntary disappearance. None were verified. Years passed. Search efforts continued intermittently. Evidence was reviewed again and again. Nothing changed the timeline. Brian was last seen outside the bar shortly before 2 a.m. After that moment, there is no confirmed record of his movements. There is no proof that he is alive. There is no proof that he is dead. No remains have been found. No belongings have surfaced. The case remains open. Brian Shaffer did not leave behind a clear ending. The night continued. The bar closed. The city returned to routine. He did not. Another unsolved mystery of the modern world, which many remember as the Havana Syndrome. In late 2016, US diplomats stationed in Havana began reporting unusual symptoms. They described sudden sensations of pressure, headaches, dizziness, ringing in the ears. Some reported difficulty concentrating. Others reported balance problems and fatigue. The reports were unexpected and inconsistent. The individuals affected worked in different buildings. They lived in different residences. They had no shared medical history. The incidents were not publicly connected at first. As more reports emerged, the US government opened an investigation. Medical examinations were conducted. Environmental testing followed. No immediate cause was identified. Similar reports later appeared in other locations: China, Europe, Washington, D.C. The symptoms varied, but the descriptions shared a pattern. They often began suddenly. They were sometimes accompanied by a directional sensation. They left lingering effects. The condition became known as Havana Syndrome. Multiple US agencies became involved. Intelligence agencies examined the possibility of hostile action. Scientific panels reviewed medical data. Independent experts were consulted. Different investigations produced different conclusions. One group suggested a possible directed energy mechanism. Another found no evidence of structural brain injury. Others pointed to stress-related or environmental explanations. No single cause was confirmed. Advanced imaging studies were conducted. Some patients showed changes compared to control groups. Other studies found no consistent abnormalities. The findings did not align. As investigations continued, internal disagreements became public. Some agencies concluded there was no evidence of a coordinated attack. Others stated that a small number of cases could not be explained by known factors. No device was recovered. No perpetrator was identified. No method was demonstrated. At the same time, affected personnel reported real and persistent symptoms. Medical care was provided. Disability determinations were made. Oversight reviews criticized delays and inconsistencies in treatment. The focus shifted from identifying a cause to managing impact. Years after the first reports, Investigations were still ongoing.
Official statements acknowledged uncertainty. Reports emphasized lack of consensus. The condition was recognized. The explanation was not. Havana Syndrome entered the record with documentation, testing, and inquiry. What it did not enter with was agreement. The symptoms were reported, the investigations were conducted, the conclusions did not converge. Next up, we have the case of Elisa Lam. In January 2013, Elisa Lam arrived in Los Angeles during a solo trip along the West Coast. She was 21 years old. She was a university student from Canada. She checked into the Stay on Main Hotel, a budget section of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. Her travel plans were routine. She kept in contact with family. She planned to continue her trip. During her stay, hotel staff noted unusual behavior. Lam was moved from a shared room to a private one after other guests complained. No crime was reported. On January 31, 2013, Elisa Lam was last seen alive. That day, hotel surveillance cameras recorded her inside an elevator. The footage shows Lam entering the elevator and pressing several buttons. The doors remain open. She steps in and out, looks into the hallway, and makes irregular hand movements. There is no audio. The footage shows no one else present. After this recording, there is no confirmed sighting of her. When Lam failed to check out and stopped contacting her family, she was reported missing. Police began a search of the hotel. Officers checked rooms, stairwells, and common areas. They searched the roof. Nothing was found. The hotel remained open. Nearly 3 weeks later, guests began reporting problems with the water. They described low pressure. They described discoloration and an unusual taste. Maintenance staff were sent to inspect the rooftop water tanks. On February 19, 2013, Elisa Lam's body was discovered inside one of the tanks. The tank was elevated and covered. It supplied water to guest rooms. There were no signs of external trauma. There were no defensive injuries. No evidence of sexual assault was found. The autopsy determined the cause of death to be accidental drowning. Bipolar disorder was listed as a significant contributing condition. Toxicology tests showed no alcohol or illicit drugs. The conclusion raised questions. Access to the roof was restricted. The tanks were not easily reachable. No witness reported seeing Lam on the roof. Investigators stated that roof access was possible through stairwells and a fire escape. Whether alarms were active at the time was unclear. No evidence was found that another person placed Lam in the tank. The elevator footage was released publicly. Public attention intensified. Viewers analyzed the video frame by frame. Speculation spread across online platforms. Investigators maintained their findings. There was no indication of foul play. There was no evidence supporting outside involvement. What remained missing was a clear sequence of events. There is no footage showing Lam reaching the roof. No footage shows her entering the tank. The investigation relied on what could be ruled out, not what could be reconstructed. The case was officially closed. Elisa Lam was found. A cause of death was recorded. What was never documented was how the final steps unfolded. The records end before the sequence does. At last but not least, and definitely the most talked about unsolved cases on the modern world, is Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 departed Kuala Lumpur for Beijing with 239 people on board. The aircraft was a Boeing 777. The route was routine. Weather conditions were normal. Less than an hour after takeoff, communication with air traffic control ended. There was no distress call, no emergency message, no report of a technical problem. The final voice transmission from the cockpit was calm and ordinary. Shortly afterward, the aircraft's transponder stopped transmitting identifying data. To civilian radar, the plane disappeared. Military radar later showed that it had not vanished. The aircraft turned back, crossed the Malay Peninsula, and continued west over the Andaman Sea. This changing course required deliberate input. It was not automatic. After leaving military radar coverage, the aircraft continued flying. Satellite systems later confirmed this. Automatic handshake signals between the plane and a communications satellite continued for several hours.
These signals contained no location data, only timing information. From that data, analysts calculated possible flight paths. 2 arcs were identified, one to the north, one to the south. The northern path was ruled out. The southern path ended over a remote region of the Indian Ocean. Search operations began and expanded rapidly. Multiple countries contributed aircraft, ships, and satellite analysis.
The initial search focused on the wrong area. As new data was analyzed, the search zone shifted thousands of kilometers. The southern Indian Ocean is deep, vast, and poorly mapped. Weather conditions are unstable. Currents disperse debris over long distances. Weeks passed with no confirmed findings. Months later, pieces of debris began washing ashore on islands in the western Indian Ocean. A wing component was identified as coming from a Boeing 777. Additional fragments were later examined and deemed consistent. These discoveries confirmed the aircraft had crashed. They did not reveal where. The main wreckage was never located. The flight data recorder was never recovered. The cockpit voice recorder was never recovered. Without them, there is no record of what occurred inside the aircraft after the final transmission. Investigators examined multiple possibilities. A sudden mechanical failure was considered. The continued flight time made this unlikely. A fire was considered.
The evidence did not support it. Hijacking was considered. No group claimed responsibility. No demands were made. Crew involvement was examined. No definitive motive or explanation was established. Passenger involvement was examined. No mechanism was identified. Each theory depended on assumptions that could not be verified. Some facts remained fixed. The aircraft changed course. The transponder was disabled. The plane avoided standard tracking. It flew until fuel exhaustion. What caused these actions remains unknown. The official investigation concluded that the aircraft was deliberately diverted and later crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. Responsibility was not assigned. A privately funded search later ended without locating the wreckage. Families received confirmation of loss without explanation. The event did not disappear from the record. Radar data exists, satellite data exists, physical debris exists. What never emerged was intent. Flight MH370 left evidence.
It did not leave an answer.